So not even 24 hours has passed since Apple released iOS and iPadOS 26.1 to the entire public, and we saw what came with that and what new features we got with that in yesterday's video. And today, Apple decides to drop developer beta 26.2 for iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and all the other different operating systems that are in the Apple ecosystem. So without further ado, let's talk about iOS and iPadOS 26.2 specifically, see what's new, and see if there's anything kind of drastic that's changed that's worth sharing. Let's get into it. Well, alright everyone, let's get right into it. And like I said, we did just install iPadOS 26.2 Beta 1 for us to kind of see exactly what's new with it. And it's about an 8 GB update. So give yourself 15 to 16 gigs of open storage to get this installed and installed correctly. And there were some inklings online that people are having trouble installing this and it was taking a little while. Just give it a little bit of time, or you can even reset the iPad to see exactly what's going on. And that usually does the trick. But if we go into the build number, go into our settings, go into our general, into our about, and then go to the iPadOS version, we are on iPadOS 26.2 23C5027F. So again, this is the very first one. We're probably 6 to 8 weeks away from a public release of iPadOS 26.2 to come out and be released. And one of the major updates that was brought to our attention with 26.2, and that's going to happen for iOS, iPadOS, as well as watchOS 26.2 specifically, is the improvements to the algorithm for your sleep score. So if you guys have played with your sleep score on your wrist or on your Apple Watch, you've been seeing maybe some higher sleep scores than you would have anticipated. I, for instance, have a 6-week-old, and we're sleeping anywhere from 4 to 6 hours in a night, and we're up at random times of the night, and I'm still getting sleep scores that are in the high 80s, high 90s, which is kind of unheard of, especially when you compare it to other smart rings that I have like right here. They are completely different in terms of what those levels are. So Apple has promised to kind of revitalize and reteach the algorithm, so the scores for each of these categories combined give you an overall sleep score, and it's paired with a classification level, as you can see right here. And now it's all happening, and the algorithm is taking a lot more into account. And then secondly, they're changing up the verbiage to be more objective versus a little bit subjective. So for example, instead of it being an excellent score, it's now a very high score, because again, excellent can mean a different number to different people versus very high is a little bit more objective overall. So to give you an example of some of my sleep scores, if you go on here, you can see that I have a very high sleep score of 90 right here. And again, for me, a 90 sleep score, 6 hours and 46 minutes, I guess that's a decent overall night's sleep. But if you go over the long week, you see that I'm getting about 6.5 hours of sleep in total. If you go here and check out the sleep score, you can see that I'm still getting some high sleep scores overall. As you can see, maybe here, they were a little bit lower, which makes sense. As you can see, the interruptions and the wake-ups. And what's good about this is that it's going to retroactively look at all the data that you already have and then give it a new number. So if you go back, look at your sleep scores from 26.1, and then after you update, go over here and check it out for 26.2, and you can see that the scores are giving a little bit normal. Like these scores were definitely higher than they were before, so definitely take that into consideration. And now the sleep scores should be a little bit more accurate in terms of the number that's given to you, which is good to see. Another new change is in the news application. So if you go into your news application, you can see that there's a little bit of a look and a change. So for instance, on the iPad specifically, you have your sidebar, and then you also have your top bar right here, but now it's easier to navigate where you can scroll through and organize these and customize them as you see fit. And not only that, but it makes it more accessible to access all the different genres of news that you would want to go towards. So it makes it easy here, you can search here, and then you can also press the arrow, and you can also scroll using either the trackpad or scroll using your finger, which is always good to see. So just navigating the News Plus application got that much easier. And then we also got some improvements in the Apple Podcast application. So now we have easily navigable chapters. So the new improvement with the chapters has to be to easily navigate more episodes with automatically created chapters. So as a podcast creator or even a podcast listener, you no longer have to rely on the actual podcaster to give you the chapters. It'll just automatically do it for you. You also have some podcast mentions, making it so it's easy to follow and see mentioned podcasts right from the player in the transcript. And then finally, from this episode, you can quickly access those links. For instance, this is more of a podcaster dream in terms of if you have sponsors and you have links that you want to show off or anything like that, it'll just be easily accessible or more easily accessible than it was before. Another new change that we noticed was on the lock screen. So we go down here and long press on here, we'll press on the customize button. You get a new liquid glass slider. So it's not a toggle. So if you long press on the clock to edit the clock, you now have this slider down here. So this slider allows you to add liquid glassiness or the amount of it to the clock itself. And now this works on any of the font styles. So again, the only font style that can be enlarged is the intro one or the first one right here. All the other ones still remain small, which is kind of annoying. But it's good to know that all the different font styles can have this liquid glass toggle or this liquid glass meter or slider to give you more or less of a liquid glass look. Now I'm just hoping that Apple brings this slider over to the settings and stops with the toggle, because this is exactly what we wanted from the very beginning. And then you can also change it right here to solid or glass, and the glass has a slider right here, like I said, which is great to see. A little bit more optionality is always a good thing. But those are all the major changes that we noticed. Let's go to the settings to kind of see what we're dealing with from a battery perspective. So this is going to be a better representation of what 26.1 is like versus 26.2, because we just installed 26.2. But again, like I mentioned in my previous video, I get anywhere from 5 to 7 hours of screen on time when I'm using the iPad intensely, and when I'm using it a little bit more casually, anywhere from 7 to 9, maybe even 10 hours, especially if I don't have the Magic Keyboard. If I'm not using the Magic Keyboard, I can get upwards of 11 hours if I am just casually using my iPad as a tablet. So from a battery life perspective, it's still holding strong. And then again, I'm using the M4 iPad Pro right here. If I go to battery health, you can see that my maximum capacity is actually at 91%, which after about a year and a half, almost 2 years, is a little bit on the lower end. I wish it was a little bit better, but again, I don't follow any good battery practices. I leave everything like ultimately on, like always on high brightness. I never have the auto lock on, and I make it pretty tough on the battery itself and the iPad. So that's something to take into consideration when it comes to the iPad Pro and the battery life. But that's everything new. Let's finish up the video. So everyone, that will just about do for this video. As you saw, the 26.2 update was very centered around Apple's new sleep score, the algorithm that they use with that, with the Apple Watch, alongside everything else that comes with that. Because like I mentioned in the video, it was almost too good to be true in terms of the type of sleep scores you would get. Like I would sleep like 6 hours where I was awakened every hour on the hour because we have a newborn, and I would still get a high 90 sleep score. And that's just not realistic. So Apple is working on getting that a little bit better, and we will have a follow-up video kind of testing that out over time, because of course it just released, so I haven't had the chance to actually test that sleep score. But it's good to know that Apple's aware that the algorithm just isn't on par with the rest of the competition, and they're moving along with that. And then the rest of it was all just bug fixes and improvements with little changes that we saw throughout the operating system with iPadOS 26.2. But let me know in the comment down below what you think. Is this something worth upgrading to? Are you on the developer beta? Do you wait for the public beta? Or do you wait for the actual public release when it does come out? And we should be seeing the public release in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So if you want to wait that long, by all means go for it. And we'll also see exactly how detrimental it is to battery life, because beta 1s are always not great for battery life. But that'll do it for this video, everybody. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know you made it to the end. Also, let me know if you upgraded to 26.1 and which device you upgraded to. But I do recommend watching that 26.1 video right here, or if you want to see my iPad mini long-term review, click on this video right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace, everyone.